Is it possible to describe this moment?
No, there's no words really. Honestly, just celebration actions. You see everybody just so happy. Brought one home, not just for us, but for 36 million people watching, a whole country. It's special to be a part of. You know, just trying to enjoy it as much as we can.
How would you describe the journey that it took to get here?
The roller coaster. You know, we never knew where we'd be at, especially since the trade dates and then other trades. And, you know, the guys that were with us early on, we did this for them as well. You know, JV, DeLon, CJ, Malachi, Greg, all those guys, happy for them. Wish we could share that moment with them right now. But I said ups and downs, trades, this, that happening, injuries, in and out. But, you know, it's all worth it. It's all worth it for sure.
Congratulations, Danny. Go celebrate with your team.
Thank you.
For Danny Green, it took everybody, and he had looked some huge shots earlier in the finals, in the game, and the defense, the on-ball defense, and some of the plays that were made. But to go back to what Max said, it all begins with the guy who was the quietest, if you will, MVP you're ever going to see, despite the fact we're talking top 5 all-time points in a final and all these other crazy things. When you look at Kawhi Leonard, we knew that he had improved and become one of the better players. But when you think of a year to a year, right? Think about this, guys. Grant talked about it a year ago. We never would have thought, right, about the Raptors. What was the conversation? If I asked you guys a year ago, let's talk to some people about Kawhi. Oh, well, he's not tough. He don't want to play with San Antonio. Remember all that stuff? How about what happened in a calendar year for him, public opinion and rhetoric-wise, to where we are now?
Oh, it's been, you know, a total 0 to 100 change in terms of the way he's thought of and perceived by the general public. Now, inside the NBA, in terms of the 450 players that are inside the NBA, Grant, Kevin, you know, those guys never lost respect for him, and they always knew who he was as a player, as a leader, and a respected champion from being in San Antonio. When he got here to Toronto, what he did was he stamped this organization with his championship knowledge, his championship pedigree. He and Danny Green, I thought, came in, those two as leaders, those two as champions, and then when they added Gasol, I thought they added the right chemistry in terms of knowledge that play in big moments, understand big moments, know what to do, and don't panic. And Kawhi was always the guy who led him quietly, and when his voice was needed, it was added, but his play was perfection.
You know, they became a business-like team because of Kawhi Leonard. He walked in, took care of his business, and walked out of the arena.
Yes.
There's no jumping around there.
Yeah,
you know, then he came to the next day at practice, did his job, did his work, worked on his game, beat somebody else that night, and went home. I mean, he just went about his business the way a champion goes about his business. You can't get excited every single time you make a basket. And, you know, there's a lot of baskets to be made, but he played so well. But I saw this team become more resilient, just a little bit tougher, a little bit more business-like. And that's why they're champions right now. You don't get chance to hold that trophy up unless you got a lot of business-like guys on your team that understand that this is a tough road and you got to go get it.
You guys make all great points, and I agree. But the thing that's surprising, you know, going back to this time last year when the trade was made, not just the narrative being negative, but he had been out for a whole year.
Yeah.
And as someone who's been out for a whole year, you know how difficult it is to get your in from day one and took over this team, as you said, not just in terms of leadership, of confidence, of the business-like approach, but his game. I mean, he came in and it almost like he got stronger throughout the season. I remember doing a couple games back in February with Isaiah. We were in Toronto, and the resting and sitting out those 20-some-odd back-to-back games, and you kept thinking, when are they going to allow him to get his rhythm, particularly as we roll into the playoffs, and he's going to be needed day in and day out? Well, I'll tell you what, that strategy worked because he was at his best, took his game to another level. And how do you get hurt, sit out a year, and come back better? Your ball handling's better, your finishing around the rim, your ability to pass and find open guys. Like, his all-around play on the offensive end, he didn't come in with that kind of, you know, game, and he's developed that. That's a self-made game. And that's been as impressive as anything that he's done throughout this season.
You know what, Grant? The other thing that I thought he did when he got to the Raptors is we always talk about Kawhi as a two-way player. I think he demanded that everyone becomes a two-way player. And when you look at, they have 6 first, second team all defensive players on their team. So defensively, what they did in this series, we kept waiting for people to get open, couldn't wonder why they couldn't get shots. Well, Toronto's defense was stellar. And then offensively, guys started stepping up. As Golden State said, there's somebody on the Raptors every single night. It's a different player.
Yeah.
Tonight, Lowry was the guy that got him started. Game 1 or game 2, you know, they had somebody else.
Siakam, game 1, gets 32.
Yeah, so it was always someone different, and Kawhi was the constant. But on the defensive side of the ball, they were always constant.
And
one thing that's been, go ahead, Matt.
Just really quick. Let's give them credit for being high IQ players too.
Yes.
Because dumb players don't play good defense.
Dumb
players,
people get you beat.
All the time. And these guys were able to put in different sets, different stuff, switch on the right people, knew who they wanted to leave open, knew who they wanted to take shots, who they didn't want to take shots, and executed it perfectly. So that shows to me they're all wired in and they all can think the game, which is a huge part. You very seldom see a low IQ dumb team win, especially in the NBA Finals.
The other teams certainly high IQ, high in culture, will, and spirit, all led by Steve Kerr at the podium.